in primary school, everyone was colorblind. We didn't think because someone had darker skin tone, they weren't as aesthetic as someone with a lighter skin tone or less successful.
You have to like talk a certain way to be understood. If you behave a certain way, you're looked at funny.
Do you know what, yeah? I'm a type of person, I don't really care about what people say.
Toning down my ethnicity is a struggle I go through a lot.
But it's one thing all transnational people, I think, learn to cope with.
Modern British culture, yeah, I can relate to because I grew up around it being developed and like what it is today. British history and patriotism, I can't really relate to that because of what its morals and values are and, you know, what they did in the past. To be proud of history and patriotism, you have to accept all the past and what they've done and all of that. And, you know, looking at the history and stuff, I wouldn't necessarily attach myself to that.
I moved to London when I was 2 years old, and my earliest memories have always been inside London, and growing up in London I don't really remember much. I've been raised around similar people to myself, so I've always felt free to kind of express where I'm from freely. Other than my skin tone and my facial features, I can't really tone that down, even if I wanted to.
Have you ever experienced racism?
A couple times. My first racist experience was humorous, if anything. I was on a bus coming back from school with a bunch of my friends. We was making up noise, and then there was this old man. He was cussing, and he just called me a sand monkey. And obviously it's comical, but I think later on, when I got older, the racism I experienced wasn't as upfront. It was more backdoor racism.
When I'm applying for jobs, like I was applying for a job a few weeks ago, and I was just handing out my CV, and obviously I have to look the part, and I felt within myself that, and I was also advised that, you know, you should wear your hair in a slick back bun rather than going your turban, because they might be more prone to hire you, and I just feel like that's something that I'm toning down just to get a job. Even back in the day when like the first generation came over here, a lot of people cut their hair, you know, got a regular trim just so they could get a job, so they could feed their families. That to change their history and the way they look, just so they could feed their families.
I've never directly experienced racism, but I do kind of feel it sometimes, but it's just like I keep it to myself or I tell a friend, but not like directly that I would like to see it like between me and a person, but I might feel, okay, this is kind of racist towards me, but not like directly address it.
I feel like I don't even know what British culture is to be identifying with it. Like, I don't know. I feel British because I don't really know anything else, but at the same time I just sort of feel a bit lost, like why am I here? When I talk, like depending on who I'm around, it's almost like, should I pronounce my T's? Like, I don't know. And when I catch myself doing it, like talking not how I talk, it's almost like I'm annoyed at myself, because like this ain't how I talk. Like, why am I trying to fit into something that's not me? And then I don't know, it's hard. Can't really control it all the time.
Do you feel like you do it to fit in, or do you feel like you do it so people can understand?
I think it's a mixture, because I don't know, like people talk different, and so they're not gonna understand if I'm not talking how they're talking all the time. And yeah, it's just easier sometimes.
I went for an interview and I was the first person to get there, but I was the last person to be attended to, and all of the other people were like different races, like I was the only black person there.
I feel like I could have turned out like very, very Arab. I could have turned out very, very British, but I feel like by harnessing both cultures and having the right balance, that's actually my identity, who I am, and I express that freely.
I feel sometimes I lose my identity when I'm not with my family for a long time, but once I'm with them, it comes back because that identity is just there already. Like, we already know that this is family, so we are gonna act a certain way. The whole culture comes back once I'm with my family.
I feel like especially in the society we live in today, if two people from the same culture who believe that interracial relationships aren't okay, and they, you know, breed to make little kids that think the same way, ignorance begets ignorance, which is never a good thing. I feel like if two people from different cultures get together, then it will be positive. I don't see any negativity in that whatsoever.
I take people's opinions on board. I don't disregard it, but I'm the type of person that I'm really sociable, and it's interested in knowing about other people's cultures. Like, I'm really open-minded.
Okay, I was born somewhere else, but if I was raised in the same environment as you, why wouldn't I be British, if you understand? Because, you know, if anything shouldn't be a problem. If I am bringing something new to the table from my original culture, like, what's wrong with a bit of seasoning on your chicken? Like, it'll just make it taste better, you get me? Like, there's no negativity whatsoever. People need to stop thinking like that. I feel like in the day and age we live in now, if you're a transnational, it's your duty to, in a way, become an ambassador for both cultures. If you come across individuals that are ignorant, like you said, people that are not, you know, tolerant of interracial relationships, or people that believe in colorism, I feel like it's a duty that, because you're educated in both cultures and you know how both cultures think, you should educate individuals on being tolerable and having a positive outlook on these things, because if you don't, there'll just be racial tension everywhere.
My thoughts towards colorism is, I don't see the point of it, because I mean, we're all black, like black is beautiful, but then it's quite different here than it is in Africa, because I know here, not everybody really looks at that to me here, but in Africa you see a lot of dark-skinned girls like bleaching and trying to do what they can to be light-skinned, and I just believe you don't have to do that. You are beautiful in your own way. There's a reason why you are dark-skinned, there's a reason why you are light-skinned. You might not be as attractive as you are light-skinned and all of that, and I think in Africa there's more pressure to be light-skinned because they just put it as like the right skin. We just have this perspective of like what is beautiful and how our skin should look, and if our skin is not a certain way, or if it's not light enough, we're not as beautiful as someone whose skin is that light. And I think it normally comes from the internet, like peer pressure. Like, you see this really beautiful girl, she's light skinned, and then you don't consider yourself as beautiful as her because maybe you're darker than her. So
in America, it's quite evident and it's prominent on the internet that it's, you know, it's out there, it's in your face racism. No one even tries to hide it. Whereas over here, it's very sly, it's very backdoor. People won't show you that they're racist, but once you start seeing trends here, then, you know, facts speak louder than anything. So I feel like in America, it's an issue that can be tackled because people are aware that it's an issue. But in the UK, it's confined to certain areas. So, like in America, people already know that individuals that aren't, how would I say, Caucasian, won't be found in the projects. And it's similar over here, but people have kind of, no one says anything about it, which I don't understand why.
I mean, how I feel life will be like for transnationals in the next 5 years is, I think it will kind of be the same, unless, like, I mean, if you're just born here, you don't go back to your country, or like your family, they don't like recognize their culture back home, you just be British. But if your parents consistently remind you of where you're from, there's no how you can desert it. So I think it just necessarily depends on like our culture, our family. But with more and more people, as we grow up here, we're losing that identity. So in the next 5 years, or even more than that, I think we're gonna embrace our British side more than our culture and just identify ourselves as British instead of like Black British or all of that.